Before diving into the story of Zeer Game Net, don't forget to show some love. Hit like, share, and subscribe with the bell icon. Now get ready for a chilling tale. Let's begin. Episode 1: Midnight of the First Night. Rain fell lightly as Mech stepped into Zeer Game Net, the gaming cafe he'd come to consider a second home. Tucked away in suburban Nonthaburi, the shop was flanked by old row houses, a bubble tea stall, a cheap food joint, and run-down student apartments. The flickering streetlight outside looked ready to die at any moment. Mech was 17, a vocational school kid who studied just enough to keep his mom off his back. But his heart, he'd left it in this cafe long ago. Not just because of the games, but because this place felt safe, like a corner of the world where reality couldn't find him. He'd been coming here since he was just a quiet kid who didn't know anyone. Now, he was a regular. So trusted that Ice, the cafe owner, let him man the night shift on weekends. "You're on from Monday to Thursday nights, not Friday or Saturday. Too many kids. I'll let Jack handle those," Ice said, tossing him the keys. Mech caught them without a word. He liked the cafe at night. Quiet, with nothing but the soft whir of CPU fans and the glow of monitors punctuating the dark. That first night, nothing happened. The cafe ran 24 hours, but past midnight, things got still. Until 1 a.m., when a man walked in from the darkness, quiet as a ghost. He was tall, thin, pale, like someone who hadn't seen sunlight in years. His hoodie was pulled over his head. He said nothing, just walked to the last PC in the dimmest corner. Mech didn't ask anything. People came here to play, not talk. Personal business stayed personal. But something felt off. That PC, the one he picked, was number 21, back corner, far right. No one had used it in ages. The monitor flickered, the fan made weird clicking noises. Yet the man used it like normal. No talking, no chat, barely even mouse clicks. At 3 a.m., he got up and left, without Mech noticing at first. The next night, he came again. Same time, same PC. On the third night, Mech paid closer attention. During a quiet spell with no customers around, he heard whispering from the back. A low, murmuring voice, not from the speakers. The game was open, sure, but there was no mic on, no music, just that voice. Mech walked over slowly, pretending to check the power cords. He passed behind PC 21, leaned forward. No one was there. The monitor was on, the game was running, but the chair was empty. Mech's heart pounded, his hands went cold. He rushed to the counter to check the security feed. From the rear overhead camera, the man in the hoodie was still sitting at PC 21. But in front of Mech, right now, there was no one. The whispering grew louder, like it was calling a name. Mech. Mech. He stumbled back, grabbing his phone to turn on the flashlight. But the lights in the cafe flickered and died for a moment before returning. When they came back, the man was seated at PC 21, as if nothing had happened. Mech was sure now, this wasn't just some regular gamer. That night, he didn't go out for snacks like usual. He just sat, silent, until morning. When Ice to take over the shift. "All good last night? You sleepy or what?" Ice asked. Mech just nodded, not daring to explain, not sure if he'd be laughed at. But deep down, a thought had already taken root. That man didn't come here just to play. And maybe PC 21 should never have been turned on again. End of Episode 1. Episode 21. Mech sat behind the game cafe counter, one leg propped on the adjacent chair like always, headphones playing soft music, but his mind wasn't listening at all. His thoughts were trapped on last night, the whisper, the camera footage, and the mismatch with what he actually saw. It was lodged in his brain, deep and heavy. There was no rain tonight, but the wind howled with a frustrating sharpness. The curtain in the back flapped against the breeze, and the old printer in the corner made strange crackling noises that startled him every time. Midnight passed. Mech kept glancing toward Terminal 21 with increasingly alert eyes. A little past 1 a.m., he came. The same man. Slower this time, his steps dragging. The hoodie still masked his face, and, of course, he chose Terminal 21. Mech said nothing, tried to act normal, but his hand on the mouse began to sweat cold. The man sat still, longer than usual. The login screen appeared on the monitor, but he didn't type anything, just stared. He stared for so long, Mech grew irritated, and that's when he noticed something was wrong with the screen. It wasn't the usual login screen. It looked black, but faintly, in the middle of the screen, there was the silhouette of a man standing with his back turned. Frowning, Mech picked up his phone and zoomed in with the camera from behind the counter. The camera showed nothing abnormal, just as he lowered the phone. He heard it. Kick. Gook. A noise from the back corner. It sounded like a chair being dragged softly across concrete. Mech froze, turned toward the sound instantly, but nothing was there. Nothing had moved. "You can see me, right?" The voice was faint, breathy, like a whisper directly at his neck. Mech jolted to his feet, spinning around, grabbing his phone and switching on the flashlight, scanning the room. That's when Ta, one of the regulars, walked in just in time. She'd been unemployed lately, spending her afternoons gaming. Now she raised an eyebrow. "Yo, Mech, what the hell? You look like a ghost," she laughed, unaware. Mech forced a smile. Didn't sleep last night, bit out of it. She headed for her usual machine, but paused as her eyes landed on Terminal 21. She stared, then turned back to ask, "Hey Mech, back when I first started playing here, did someone ever die at that terminal?" Her question stabbed straight into his chest. "Why do you ask?" His voice was hoarse. She kept her gaze on Terminal 21. "I don't know, just felt weird. Like I sat there once and suddenly couldn't breathe, real tight in the chest." Mech swallowed hard. He knew then, he hadn't been the only one who felt it. At 3 a.m., the man in the hoodie got up again. He left the shop like before. But this time, Mech didn't dare look after him. He sat with his head down, eyes shut tight, gripping his phone like it was a charm. In the silence, the whisper returned, louder this time. "Mech, you have to help me." End of Episode 2. Episode 3, A Trace in Memory. After that second night, Mech didn't sleep. He wandered around town aimlessly until the sky turned light. Even then, the whisper still echoed faintly in his ears, no matter how hard he tried to ignore it. He got home at 8 a.m., passed out for barely 2 hours before a strange dream jolted him awake. He dreamt he was sitting alone in the game cafe. The power went out, and a voice whispered into his ear, "Don't let me get stuck here." That voice was so cold it shot through his chest. Mech bolted awake, heart pounding even though he was safely in his own room. That evening, he arrived at the cafe earlier than usual. Ice and Nam were still there. Ice was going over receipts at the back, while Nam sat on his lap, just like always. "Yo, Mech, you're early. I was just about to order food. Want anything?" Ice called out. Crispy pork and fried egg, please," Mech answered quietly. Nam glanced at him, then whispered to Ice, "Is the kid getting enough sleep? He looks pale." Mech didn't respond. He sat down at the counter, opened up the security camera footage from the previous night. But the footage from the rear camera wouldn't play. A message appeared, "File corrupted or deleted." He refreshed it, same message. Mech turned immediately to Ice. "Hey, do the camera files delete themselves automatically?" Ice frowned. "No, the server saves everything for 7 days. Why?" Mech hesitated. "I just wanted to check something from last night, but it says the file's damaged." Ice looked at him more seriously. "I'll check again later. Jack usually handles the systems. I'll have him take a look." Mech nodded, but deep inside he was unsure. Should he really tell them everything? Later that night, Mech resumed the graveyard shift. The store was quiet again, only the hum of CPU fans filling the space. He tried listening to music, but he yanked off his headphones the moment he heard that sound again. Rapid keystrokes coming from the back corner, even though no one had entered. He turned to look. Terminal 21. Same login screen as before, but now the keyboard was typing by itself, one letter at a time. He crept closer, slowly. Letters appeared on the screen. S, E, K. Mech stepped back, heart hammering. He remembered that name. He raced back to the counter, opened the cafe's login history. Yes, SEK had been a regular, and he always used Terminal 21, 3 years ago. But now his account was flagged, permanently deactivated. Mech clicked for more details. Reason, sudden death in the game cafe, 2012. Mech's hands turned ice cold, his brain fogged, his heart pounded so hard it nearly stopped his breath. Then the whisper returned, but this time it was crystal clear. You remember me now, don't you? End of episode 3. The one who saw it too. The next evening, Mech returned to his shift at the game cafe, though his mind was anything but calm. He found himself glancing more often at the dark corner of the shop, where PC-21 sat, as always, like a silent witness. As night crept in, Jack, the afternoon staff, was packing up. Mech took the chance to ask. "Hey Jack, did you check last night's CCTV footage? I said the files were corrupted." Jack's face tightened slightly. "Yeah, I checked. It's not just corruption. The footage from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. is completely gone, specifically from the camera facing PC-21. Mech swallowed hard but didn't say more. Jack added, "That terminal's weird, man. Sometimes the lights around it flicker for no reason." "Probably just loose wires," Mech deflected, avoiding his gaze. Jack stared at him a moment longer, then shrugged. "Well, just keep an eye out. Let me know if anything strange happens." Night fell. The usual hush returned, with only the hum of CPU fans filling the air. At exactly 1 a.m., he came. The hooded man. But this time, he wasn't alone. Another boy, a high schooler Mech didn't recognize, followed him in and sat at the station next to PC-21. The hooded man moved like usual, silent, detached. The new boy played quietly, not saying a word. 30 minutes passed. Then the boy got up and approached the counter. Hey, that guy next to me, is he okay? I was just playing, then he looked up and his face, it didn't look normal." Mech's heart skipped. "What do you mean?" The boy's face turned pale. His eyes, there were no whites, just black. And his mouth, it was torn open, like bleeding. "Is he still there?" Mech asked immediately. The boy glanced back, then whispered, "No, he's gone. Just vanished. I didn't even hear the chair move." Mech bolted toward PC-21. Empty chair. Game still running. He took a deep breath. So it wasn't just him anymore. "What's your name?" he asked the boy. "I'm Earth. Just moved here, grade 10. If you ever see anything strange again, tell me. Don't ignore it. Got it?" Earth nodded fast, visibly shaken, and returned to his seat. Mech sat back down at the counter, gripping his phone. The whisper returned. "More than one now. You're starting to see us, aren't you?" And this time, it wasn't just Sex voice. It was layered, with echoes of many others. Children, teens, lost voices. Blackout at 3 a.m. It was Thursday night. Mech returned to his shift at the game cafe, his mind still buzzing with questions about Sack, about the whispers, and about the fact that both he and Earth had heard the same thing. He opened up shop as usual, checked the machines, ran diagnostics, everything seemed normal. But deep inside he felt it. Something was going to happen tonight. 1:07 a.m. The hooded man arrived again. sat down at PC 21, silent as always. 10 minutes later, Earth walked in too. "You're really back again?" Mech asked, tired but relieved. Earth simply nodded and took his usual seat. But within minutes, the lights went out. Beep. The UPS backup system kicked in. 5 PCs shut down instantly, including #21. The cafe was dead silent. Only the dim glow from the storefront sign seeped in. Mech immediately grabbed the flashlight under the counter and swept the beam around the room. PC 21 had shut off like the others, but the chair that had just been empty now had a dark red-black stain like fresh blood. He stepped closer. The monitor flickered just once. It blinked to life for a split second, even though the plug was still out. And then, footsteps. Heavy, slow, from the back of the cafe. Thump, thump, thump. Mech spun around. Nothing. Earth approached, eyes wide. Mech, did you see that? Behind the fridge. Mech turned his flashlight. Nothing. Earth whispered, shaking. "I saw someone standing there, and they didn't have feet." Before Mech could respond, 3 knocks echoed on the glass front door. Knock, knock, knock. They turned in unison. A young woman stood outside, wearing a rain-soaked university uniform, her face pale, eyes bloodshot. She didn't smile, didn't speak. She just slowly raised a finger and pointed at PC 21. Then, the power surged back. The UPS went silent. All PCs flickered to life, including #21. A game auto-launched on its own. No one was sitting there. But on the screen, a single chat message appeared, typed by no one. "Help me. Don't let it drag me away again." Mech and Earth locked eyes. Neither spoke. Tonight, it wasn't just Sek anymore. Episode that shouldn't exist. It was Friday evening. Mech still returned to the gaming cafe, even though it wasn't his night shift. Jack was supposed to cover tonight. But Mech couldn't stay away. Something inside him needed to know whether what happened the night before was just a hallucination or something real hiding behind the veil of logic. He arrived around 6 p.m. Patan was already at her usual spot, gaming with a boxed meal and green tea beside her. "Hey Mech, just the person I was gonna ask," she said loudly, not bothering to lower her voice. "You were here last night, right? The power went out?" "Yeah, how'd you know?" Mech replied quickly. "My friend lives in the dorm nearby. She said she saw some weird shadow pacing back and forth in front of the shop while the lights were out. Thought someone was trying to break in, so she recorded a clip," Patan said, eyes still on her game. Mech felt a sudden tightness in his chest. "Where's the clip?" he asked. She handed him her phone, an 18-second video. Grainy, but clearly something moved, a silhouette. A shadow that, no matter how you looked at it, looked exactly like Sek. And at the end of the video, a soft whisper bled into the audio, overlapping with the sound of the wind. "It's not just me. There are many more still stuck here." That night, Mech couldn't sleep. Again. He pulled out his laptop, tapped into the cafe's security system, and replayed footage from the exact same time frame. What he found made his blood run cold. The back camera had captured a woman in a rain-soaked university uniform pointing at PC number 21 again, same as before. But at the same moment, the front camera, which should have captured her from full view, showed nothing, no one, just empty space. Mech realized this wasn't a ghost story about one spirit anymore. They were caught in something larger, something no one had dared to name. Episode 7, The File That Shouldn't Exist. Late that night, Mech pretended to tidy up the shop while secretly waiting for the store to empty out. Jack and Nick had already left. Now it was just him and Earth. Again. Around 1 a.m., Sek arrived, right on schedule. Same machine, same silence. He barely moved. But tonight, Mech decided to do something he'd never dared before. He walked over to PC number 21. Sek was sitting there, same as always, but as Mech approached, he vanished, disappeared into thin air. Only the chair slowly spinning remained, and the monitor still glowing with the main menu screen. Mech sat down, hands shaking, but his mind sharp and focused. He entered the hidden admin mode, a tool ICE had once shown him for troubleshooting. He typed a command to search for all hidden files. And then, one result appeared. SEK_last session 2012.rec. His heart dropped. He double-clicked it. The screen loaded. A frozen frame from an old-school online RPG game. But something was off. The character on screen just kept walking in a loop, trapped in the same map, for nearly 8 hours. As he watched, a heavy breathing sound came through the headphones. He hadn't even turned the audio on. Then, without warning, the screen flickered. It switched to real CCTV footage from inside the gaming cafe, clearly from the past. A young boy sat at PC number 21, his face identical to Sek's. And then, a girl entered the frame behind him, a university uniform. The same girl who'd pointed at the machine in previous footage. But her face? She had no eyes. The screen froze on that haunting image, and then blacked out. A whisper pierced through Mech's ears, chilling and clear. It's not just me, and it won't stop until someone learns the truth. Episode 8. Behind the Whispering Voices. On Sunday morning, Mech returned home, barely having slept. He tried to rest, but the image of the eyeless woman and the whispers from the previous night haunted him relentlessly. By afternoon, he received a message from Earth. Last night, after I got home, I had a strange dream. It felt like someone was dragging my leg, and I heard a voice whispering, "I'm not the first." Reading this, Mech's heart pounded. That evening, he returned to the shop and found only ICE there, no Nam as usual. "Hey Mech, just the person I wanted to see," ICE said. "I was about to ask, why did the back camera footage from 2 to 4 a.m. delete itself? Did you mess with it?" "No, I didn't," Mech replied hesitantly, "but there's something going on that I can't quite explain." ICE looked at him seriously and sighed. "You know, when this shop first opened 5 or 6 years ago, there was an incident. A college student collapsed and died at one of the back computers, right in that corner. I heard about it, but didn't think much until you started mentioning these things." Mech remained silent, but his mind began to piece things together. Perhaps Sek wasn't the origin. He might have been another victim of something that had been lurking in the shop for a long time. That night, Mech decided not to do anything unusual, just observe. He sat at the counter, turning off some of the shop's lights to better see the glow from the monitors. At 1 a.m., Sek arrived as usual. But this time, he wasn't alone. Another shadow followed silently and stopped in front of the shop, facing the glass without moving. Mech stood up and approached the glass. The whispering began again. "It existed before me. It's still in this machine. It's not a ghost, but something that wants people trapped inside." The raspy voice seemed to echo inside Mech's own head. He looked at the shadow outside, a woman in a student uniform, eyeless, standing silently at the glass. On the floor in front of the shop, a dark, wet trail appeared, stretching from the door into the shop, as if something was seeping into his world. Episode 9. The Player Who Never Logged Out. After that night, Mech realized that his curiosity was spiraling into something beyond his control. He wasn't exactly scared, but he felt as if he was being pulled deeper every time he returned to the game cafe. Determined to uncover the truth, he began digging through old forum posts about gaming cafes in the area. Eventually, he stumbled upon a thread from 2012. Has anyone ever played at that cafe near XXX University and had their user auto-logged in? It's like someone else is already logged in, even when no one's there. Mech stared at the post, then scrolled down to the comments. One reply read, "I once sat at the last machine and heard typing sounds next to me, even though no one was there." The name that popped up in the chat window was SEK. The same name he'd seen in the system files just nights before. That night, Mech was alone in the cafe. Ice had an urgent matter to attend to, leaving Mech with the eerie silence that now felt all too familiar. Around 1 a.m., Machine 21 powered on by itself. No one was near it. Deck.com. The game auto-logged in. Player name SEK_LV74. Facebook, +1. Deck.com, +1. The character stood motionless at the city gate, then began to walk slowly into the dense forest, as if controlled by an unseen force. Mech watched from a distance. Then, a chat message appeared on the screen, even though the speakers were off. "You see now, don't you? It doesn't want anyone to escape." Suddenly, the screen switched to CCTV footage, not live, but from the day Sek last sat at that machine. In the footage, a female student in uniform slowly emerged from beneath the desk, crawling up beside Sek as if to merge with him. Her face had no eyes. The screen froze on that image, then abruptly went black. A whisper echoed in Mech's ears. "They've changed their dwelling long ago." End of episode 9. The next victim. That night, after the video ended, Mech didn't stay until dawn as he usually did. He rose from his seat, grabbed his bag, and left the shop immediately, feeling as though something was following him. Back in his room, he collapsed onto his bed and opened his laptop, meticulously documenting every event he'd experienced since the first night. He titled the file Zeer_Nightlog. The following evening, Mech returned to the gaming cafe and found Earth had arrived earlier, looking visibly shaken. "Last night, I dreamt. I was sitting at Station 21, staring at the screen, but all I saw was my own reflection. Yet it was smiling, even though I wasn't," Earth said, his face pale and dark circles under his eyes. Mech led Earth to a corner of the shop to rest and spoke in a calm voice. "You're experiencing what Sek did. It starts with dreams, then slowly consumes your feelings." Around midnight, P. Tarn entered the shop, her demeanor as casual as ever. "Wow, it's unusually quiet tonight. So is this place really haunted, or are you guys just losing it?" she joked while logging into a front station. But as soon as she logged into the game, a video automatically played, an 11-second clip showing her sitting at that very station the previous night, even though she hadn't been there. P. Tarn froze, murmuring, "What the hell is this?" The video ended with a click from Station 21 at the back. That station powered on by itself, with no one nearby. A chat message slowly appeared on the screen, letter by letter. "The next victim never sees it coming." Mech looked at Tarn. She stood still for a moment before softly saying, "3 years ago, I saw that woman walk out of this shop at 3 a.m., even though it was closed." End of episode 10. Episode 11, The Forgotten Player. After P. Tarn's revelation that night, Mech revisited his Zeer Nightlog file. He realized this mystery was more than just a ghost story, it was a recurring cycle. Delving into the user login history for Terminal 21, he discovered a previously unnoticed username, Pim. This account had been permanently deactivated in 2012 for unknown reasons. Curious, Mech searched social media and found an old Facebook profile under that name. The last update was 3 years ago, featuring a photo of a female university student, eerily resembling the figure he'd seen outside the shop. He shared the image with Earth, who responded after a pause, "I've seen her before, but not here, in my dream. I was walking past her in an abandoned school building, like in that old online game map." "Which game?" Mech asked. "The Ruin Code," Earth replied. "An old game rumored to have a bugged map, one you shouldn't enter." That night, Mech decided to access the Ruin Code on Terminal 21 using a developer debug mode. Upon entering, he found himself in a nameless map, no NPCs, no other players, just a dilapidated school and the sound of wind. At the school's entrance, a chat message appeared from an unregistered user. "Pim, if you keep going, you'll understand why I never came back." End of episode 11. The Path with No Return. Mech stared at the message from Pim on the game's screen for a long time. Part of him wanted to retreat, but another part felt irresistibly drawn deeper than ever before. He slowly pressed the forward key, guiding his character through the entrance of the abandoned school building. Inside, the building was desolate. Classrooms stood open, walls cracked, and some rooms had broken desks scattered as if a struggle or desperate escape had occurred. Footsteps echoed in the game, even though there were no NPCs. Suddenly, the game exited its normal mode, shifting to a smooth third-person VR perspective, despite the machine lacking any connected VR equipment. Mech began to hear typing sounds in his headphones. "Pim, this isn't a game, it's a trap. Pim, if you see my face, you'll be stuck here like me." The screen of Machine 21 started to flicker with interference, the image flashing rapidly as the shop's lights trembled in sync. Earth, who had been watching, quickly approached. "Brother Mech, stop, it's about to pull you in for real." But Mech remained motionless, his eyes fixed on the screen as if hypnotized. In the game, the back door of the building suddenly opened on its own. The figure of a female student slowly walked in, the sound of her shoes echoing on the floor. "Pim, you want to know why I couldn't leave? Then look closely." The screen glitched again before displaying a still image from a video clip. The woman was sitting in front of Machine 21, seemingly playing a game. But in the reflection of the shop's back mirror, a tall, dark shadow stood behind her. The final voice from the game whispered before the screen went dark. "Pim, I'm not a ghost, but a fragment of the game that no one can delete." End of episode 12. The account that never existed. After the screen went black, the shop fell into complete silence, as if sealed off from the outside world. Even the hum of the CPU fans paused momentarily before returning softly, like nothing had ever happened. Earth was still standing beside Mech, too scared to touch him. Mech looked like someone just waking up from a trance, his breathing slowly returning to normal. He gently removed his headphones and said quietly, "I found it, but what's inside doesn't belong in any game or any world." Earth didn't ask further, but fear was now clearly visible in his eyes. The next morning, Mech decided to send a screen recording from the night before to Ice via line, along with a message. "Can you check for a user named Pim in the back-end system? You'll find something." Ice called back immediately, his tone serious. "Mech, listen, I checked the name you gave me. There's no such user in the system. No one has ever logged in with that name, not even once on any machine." "But Ice, last night I saw her talking to me in the game. She brought me into a map that doesn't exist in the normal selection. She said she's not a ghost, but a fragment of the game, one that no one can delete." There was a long silence on the line before Ice spoke slowly. "This shop was hacked back in the early days, back when private servers were booming. There were rumors someone embedded something into the game files. I didn't think much of it back then, since nothing seemed to happen, but now I'm starting to think something got buried deeper than we ever imagined." That night, Mech didn't dare play again. Instead, he reviewed the access logs for Machine 21. He noticed certain timestamps showing the user as null with unusually long session durations. Some of these logs showed the ruin code being launched without any session being recorded. But when he opened up old screen capture files from previous nights, the footage wasn't of any game. It was the game shop itself from an overhead view. And in the clips, multiple figures, people Mech had never seen before, were seated at Machine 21, unmoving, in perfect silence. Each face was one that didn't exist in any system. End of episode 13. The Missing Student. The following evening, Mech sat silently at the game shop's front counter. The atmosphere was unusually quiet, with noticeably fewer customers than usual. Jack entered the shop, iced coffee in hand, and settled into his usual seat without looking at Mech. "I heard some news this morning. A high school student from around here has gone missing. Last seen entering a game shop late at night," Jack mentioned casually. Mech froze, his hands pausing mid-typing, his eyes narrowing. "What's the name?" "Earth, I think. You know him, right? He's the kid who often hangs out with you." Mech stood up abruptly, heart pounding, hands cold. He quickly dialed Earth's number, but there was no response. That night, Mech stayed alone at the shop. Jack had left earlier than usual. The shop's atmosphere felt as if it was anticipating something. Machine 21 remained silent, unused, but at exactly midnight, its screen flickered on by itself. User, null. Game, the ruin code. Map, unnamed, no data, no server support. A message appeared slowly on the screen. Another one, whose name no one remembers. The in-game image wasn't of a city or dungeon, but of the Zeer Game Shop from an unfamiliar camera angle. In the center of the shop, a shadow of a boy sat motionless, facing away from Machine 21. Mech instantly recognized it was Earth. End of episode 14. Not playing, but trapped. The image of Earth in the game remained motionless, unresponsive, like a still photo embedded into the system rather than a live character. Mech tried to exit the game, but every command was rejected. Access denied blinked on the screen each time he attempted to shut down the system. Suddenly, the security monitor at the shop's front displayed something strange. It showed a live feed of the shop, but all the lights in the video were off, even though the real shop was brightly lit. In the video, several people stood silently around Machine 21. They didn't move. They had no faces. Mech turned to look at the actual room. No one was there. Then the game's system emitted another chime. New chat messages appeared. Pim, if you go in to help, you'll be trapped too. Pim, but if you don't, they'll never get out. Keystrokes echoed from Machine 21 on its own. Join session, yes, no. Mech was about to press no, but then Earth's image turned toward the in-game camera, his eyes bloodshot, lips moving slowly without sound. Help me. Mech's hand trembled. He hit yes. The screens across the entire shop blacked out all at once. End of episode 15. Episode 16. In a world where no one escapes. Darkness swallowed everything for just a split second. Then a dim, bluish light slowly emerged again. Mech felt like he had just opened his eyes in a world unnervingly silent. The surroundings looked as though they were constructed from fragmented memories of a game. An abandoned school building, a corridor littered with overlapping footprints, flickering neon lights dangling from a ceiling with no visible wires. He stood in the middle of an unnamed map, the very one Earth had once mentioned. In front of him was a long hallway with no end in sight. To his left, a classroom door creaked open, beckoning with silent suspicion. Mech glanced down at himself. He wasn't controlling an avatar anymore. This was his real body. Every sensation was painfully, vividly real. A voice echoed in his head, not from the game, but as if someone else's thoughts were overlapping his own. Here, there is no time, no tomorrow, no death, only being trapped. He stepped forward, feeling a strange resistance in the air, like walking through syrupy fog. He pushed the classroom door open. Inside were broken chairs and scattered desks. Scratches clawed along the walls. On the blackboard, a single word had been carved, not written, with jagged, desperate strokes. Sec. Suddenly, footsteps sounded behind him. Mech spun around. Earth stood there. His face was pale, one eye lowered as if injured. He whispered hoarsely, "Bro, don't stay here too long. It's coming." End of episode 16. The choice that wasn't a choice. The moment Mech hit yes, every light in the shop blinked out. All screens turned black. The whirring fans silenced. The air was thick, so still it felt alive. Then, Machine 21 lit up again. On screen, a message appeared. Session started. User null. Mech didn't feel like he was sitting in front of a screen anymore. He felt like he was inside it. He stood in the same ruined school building he saw in the glitch map, but this time it wasn't a game. The cracked tiles under his feet crunched like glass. The hallway pulsed with a low, humming vibration, like the walls were breathing. At the far end, a door slowly opened with a rusty screech. Earth stood just inside, facing away, whispering something Mech couldn't hear. Mech tried to run to him, but the more he moved, the farther the door seemed. Suddenly, voices began to overlap. Echoes from past sessions, dead users, forgotten names. You can't save him. This isn't a game anymore. She's still here. Mech fell to his knees, clutching his head. Just then, the entire map glitched. Brief static flashes broke the illusion. For a split second, Mech saw not Earth, not the hallway, but himself, sitting in front of the machine. But something else was in the reflection behind him, watching. Then, blackness. The next thing he knew, he was back in the game shop. Everything seemed normal, but his hands were trembling, and on the screen of Machine 21, a final message faded in. Only one leaves. Episode 18. The shop that reopened like nothing happened. After that night, Mech never took the night shift again. He told Ice he needed a break, blamed school, exhaustion, anything that would let him stay away without having to explain what really happened. But the silence of the game shop never left him. Each night, he still heard faint fans spinning, the clack of invisible keys, the flicker of a monitor waking in the dark. Earth went back to his normal life, like none of it ever happened. He returned to school, hung out with friends, smiled as if everything was fine. But every time Mech saw him, their eyes met for just a second, before both looked away, silently agreeing never to speak about it again. The Zeer Game Net reopened as if nothing had changed. Customers came back. Noon played her usual afternoon rounds. Nick kept talking everyone's ears off. Jack still yawned through his shift. Machine 21? Removed. Disconnected. Replaced with a shelf for snacks and printer paper. But sometimes, late at night, Noon said she'd see a strange username flicker on the system log while doing the end-of-day balance. A name no one recognized. And the moment she refreshed the screen, it was gone. One night, Mech returned to the shop alone. He didn't go inside. He just stood outside the glass, watching. The store lights dimmed like always. The security camera slowly turned on its axis. Then, in the reflection on the glass, he saw himself, standing next to a hooded boy who wasn't really there. Mech spun around. No one. When he looked back, the monitor on the shelf that used to be machine 21 flickered once. It wasn't plugged in. The end. If you enjoyed Zeer Game Net, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support means everything. We'll see you next time with another chilling story. Until then, stay safe, and may the ghosts leave you alone tonight.